So our goal in this video is to create our first controller. And with this controller, we're just going to return a very simple page. So let's get started. If I start the website, there we go. This should work. What I want to do is create a page right there. Right now we get a 404 because I don't have a controller. I don't have anything in the routes to handle this particular path. So this is why I get a 404. So how do we create this controller? Well, let's start by looking at the Laravel documentation. In the basics, the controllers page. And a controller looks something like this. And so it's a class. And their example is a user controller, and it extends controller. And so a controller, think of it as basically a class that's there to receive or handle requests. You don't have to use controllers all of the time, but it's very common to do so. And so that's what a controller is. A controller is just basically handling these requests. And so this one would be presumably something for handling, showing a user, because we have a user controller and then we have a show function. So we want to create one of these. Now what we can do is we can just create a file and get after it and type in code. Or if we scroll down a little bit, we can see when right after it talks about single action controllers, and you should familiarize yourself with all of this documentation and read it. You can see there's actually a way to use a make command to create controllers that's like this. So let's go ahead and do that instead of creating the file ourselves. So I'm going to stop this, and this will be PHP artisan, and we'll see all of our options. And so if we look in the make section, we can see make controller. And so this creates a new controller class, which is what we want. So PHP artisan make controller, and you're supposed to put a name after this. As you can see, it gives me an error. And so I'm going to call it a links controller because we're going to be making a links page. Controller created successfully. So where did that go? So if we go look in our project, we go look in the links controller. There it is. It's not much to it yet, but we'll add to it here in just a second. Let's go ahead and think about all the files we're going to need. We're going to need this controller. We're going to need to add this to our routes. So let's go ahead and open that. And we're also going to need a view that's going to go in the views folder, just like welcome did. And we're going to need to change the welcome page to link to it. So let's go ahead and get that open. So where do we want to start? So let's start with, let's just make this controller work. So if I go to links controller, I can add a function here and say function show. Now this is not returning a full page. I'm just going to show you something cool here. And so here's links controller and a show function. Next thing we got to do is we got to add this into our routes. And so here's our routes. And so how does that look? It looks like this. First of all, we have to add in our links controller right up here. This does not get added automatically. You will have to add this in here. App HTTP controllers links controller. That should match your namespace. App HTTP controllers links controllers. So those things will match. This makes this particular controller class available at this point in the code for use. And so that has to be put there. The next thing we're going to need is we are going to need to actually hook up that controller. And it looks like this. Route get, and when somebody goes to the links path, what it's going to do is it's going to execute the links controller and the show function. Now the show function I created right here. Links controller, of course, that's the controller we just created. And this should do it. So let's save that and let's see what happens when we go to links. Now, Obviously, if we go here now, nothing's going to work because I stopped the site. So let's go back and start it up again. Hello there. So that's that string I returned from here. But we don't want to return a string. We want to return a real view. So let's do that. So we need to create a new view here. So I'll just mimic this and say links.blade.php. And I'm going to keep this really simple. We're not even going to type out the whole HTML page here. Let's just put little bits in. So here's my useful links. We have a header tag, an unordered list, and a list item with an anchor in it. That's it. So this is what we want to return. Now, how do we return this view? How do we tell it to use this view? We can actually get our clue from here in the routes file. And so we have an example, return view welcome. So let's try that. Return view links. So we have a links view now being returned from our links controller. Let's go give it a try. So here's our actual page. Pretty sweet. Documentation. Cool. Okay. Now, let's put that here. All right. So there'll be things we'll want to change. You can put it really anywhere on the page. I'm just going to put it right here. So here, just say links. Now let's refresh the page. Boom. We have our links file created and linked to the home page. And at this point, we've actually accomplished everything we wanted to do. What have we done? We created a controller. I showed you how to hook that up in routes. I showed you could, if you wanted to, just return a string. You can just do this, and that actually works. That's not usually what you want to do, but it's great for testing, just to make sure something works. And then what we did is we changed it to actually return the view. And so that's how we actually got this to happen. And then we just went and changed the home page. And so that's it. We've accomplished our goal.